It's Tuesday of Tennessee-Georgia week. The Vols getting ready to play the number 6 Bulldogs at Neyland Stadium on Saturday. Alongside Patrick Brown, I'm Ryan Callahan with the Go Vols 24/7 No-Huddle. Tennessee moving closer to game day. Obviously a big one coming up this weekend. And Tennessee, a big challenge for Tennessee's wide receivers that have answered the bell so far. A lot of questions going into the season about those young receivers and how they would fare with really a revamped offense as a whole, but especially a lot of youth at wide receiver. And Kelsey Pope, the wide receivers coach, seemed to be pretty encouraged by what he'd seen from that group, but he knows a bigger challenge waiting ahead on Saturday against Georgia.
Yeah, I like that each of the top 3 guys have had sort of, I don't want to say a big moment, but a big game. You know, Braylon Staley has the big play in the first game against Syracuse, and then last week it was Mike Matthews and Chris Brazel each going over 100 yards and making some big plays. Matthews obviously had the big touchdown on the scramble drill, and Chris Brazel was involved early and often in 9 catches, I think a career best, 125 yards for him. So each of those guys has been able to sort of shake off the rust from whatever time they may have missed during preseason camp, but also build some confidence. Now they've got to take that confidence and go apply it against Georgia, which is always a tough matchup. They've been able to challenge Tennessee's wide receivers and win that battle over the last few meetings. So that will be something that Tennessee needs to swing in its favor if it's going to win this game.
A lot of press coverage typically when you play Georgia. You know, this group, it's a different kind of test physically. You had Brew McCoy, a bigger guy last year that could kind of withstand a little more of that physical challenge. This group is, like as you said, been productive, but they are going to face a little bit more press coverage and just more of a physical test than what they've seen the first 2 games for sure.
Yeah, Kelsey Pope kind of outlined it as sort of a mental and physical challenge because you will get press coverage. You will have to make contested catches because those guys are athletic and talented and don't give you a lot of separation. But you also have to be prepared as a wide receiver for a lot of different coverages. They'll play cover 2, cover 1. He listed all of them pretty much. So you've got to be able to know what you're seeing and be able to be on the same page with your quarterback. But Kelsey Pope was kind of, I don't want to say defiant, but he was like, we try to make it very difficult in practice. He said that Tennessee's defense that they go against throws a lot of looks at them and a lot of different coverages. They have some good DBs over there, so he thinks, he sort of regurgitated the mantra that if we make practice really hard, games will be easier. Certainly this game will be, it's hard to make this game easy because Georgia always has so much talent in the secondary, but that's what you've got to do as a coach, and he kind of said this too. You've got to prepare yourself. You prepare your guys to be able to face tough coverage, tough DBs, and so that's something that he feels pretty good about. I think he feels pretty good about this group, and he said that they've got all chips on their shoulders, right? Like they've got themselves, they've got to prove stuff. He said that I think he was asked about Matthews and Staley in particular, but he said they all kind of keep receipts, which is interesting because so many times you hear coaches and players, we don't care about the outside noise. Yeah. But I think Tennessee's wide receivers have been aware, one way or the other, that there's been question marks or doubts. And so I think they've proven themselves pretty well through 2 games, but you got to do it again. You got to do it every week in this league. And certainly they've got to prove themselves to be better handle Georgia's defense than some of the previous iterations of wide receivers here have.
No doubt. Thought it was interesting that Braylon Staley mentioned that they're having some of the GAs and things like that kind of hold them and do different things physically.
Well, we've seen the DBs, they sometimes will put those oven mitts on them when they do some one-on-ones. That's maybe more for the defensive backs, but just so they don't grab and hold, but it also probably allows them to be maybe a little bit extra physical too. So
they got to learn to, as he said, they're not going to call everything. You got to learn to fight through it and still make the catch, even when you're held or restricted in some way physically. Also talked with Sam Pendleton, Tennessee's starting center, the Notre Dame transfer. Obviously he's played at this level before, but has kind of proved himself, I think, pretty well these first 2 games. But he talked a little bit about how Tennessee's offensive line has played, and that group, I think, has been among the pleasant surprises on this team so far.
Yeah, he did touch on the bad snap against ETSU. He said he was kind of, I think, spinning the ball, and they were going fast, and so he didn't maybe have the right grip on it, and that led to it going wide of Joey Aguilar. So he said that that's something he obviously wants to clean up. But I asked him how the offensive line's played, and he said we're playing with a lot of violence right now. So I know that's something that a couple of them have said. So you need to be violent and physical in this game because of what Georgia will throw at you in the front 7 or front 6, depending on how they play. But we'll have to see what Tennessee's offensive line does. Obviously, we'll have to see if David Sanders is back. Do they put him in the lineup at tackle? Do they go back to their sort of original 5? Do they stick with this 5?
Sam Pendleton might have hinted today that David Sanders wasn't out there at practice because he was kind of alluding to Sanders making a comment off to the side about kind of
leading from the side. Leading from afar, I think is what he said.
So that's interesting to note at least. We'll see what he is on the practice report, but maybe at least today David Sanders not out there.
But this group I think has played pretty well. But again, the entire offense, they put up, I don't know how many points, 72 last week, 45 in the opener, and Like I said, I think I might have said this yesterday, but Tennessee scored points on everybody. They have not scored points on Georgia, so they're going to have to undo or perform better in some of the things that have kept them from beating Georgia in these past 4 meetings to kind of get over that hump.
Tennessee top 5 in the country right now in total offense and scoring offense. They haven't played an SEC team yet. Obviously haven't faced a team that's likely to win a bunch of games this year, but still an impressive start for an offense that had a lot of question marks going into the season. Tennessee and Georgia at 3:30 Eastern time, Saturday at Neyland Stadium. Kickoff now just 4 days away. We'll have plenty more throughout the week at GoVols247.com. For Patrick Brown, I'm Ryan Callahan.